All right, we are dealing with a cocktail of COVID-19 strains within the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. In the first one, you were dealing with one Ugandan strain, largely. Yes, but now you have a concoction. You have a cocktail, actually, of COVID-19 strains. One South African strain, you have one from the United Kingdom, you have the Kappa variant from India, which is grappling with 29.6 million cases of COVID-19. You have a Nigerian variant, another country that is grappling with 167,000 plus cases of COVID-19. So we have many variants in this country which are actually expanding more on the cocktail of strains that we have in this country, meaning transmissibility is higher with this new strain. I remember during the onset of the first pandemic, yes, the onset of the first pandemic, if you got COVID-19, you would heal quickly. But then this second strain, you would heal quickly and it would be hard for you to get reinfected again. The first wave. But then this second wave, even though you are vaccinated, you are susceptible to actually catching the COVID-19 disease again. Even though you caught it maybe in January and you got healed maybe around May, in June you can still actually get the COVID-19 disease if you are near someone who is actually ill. That's what we do know about this strain. It's largely very different from the first strain. Even if you heal, you get reinfected and so on and so on. Even after healing, you deal with the after effects. Sonic headaches and so forth, body weaknesses, fevers and so forth, seizures at night. You are sweating, yes, you are sweating so badly in the middle of the night. So even though you are healing, you have the after effects that are so gruesome. You do not want to catch any of these strains that are largely very existent in this country of ours, Uganda. So it's against that background that we decided to call upon Dr. Grace Nambatia, the Director of Research at the Natural Chemotherapeutics Research Institute under the Health Ministry, to expand more on this and the fact that Ugandans are experimenting on various concoctions and herbal remedies. How safe are they? Very good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right, Dr. Grace Nambatia, you are here in January, and we did talk about the fact that the ministry, the health ministry under the Natural Chemotherapeutics Research Institute that you're heading, was actually working on the herbal medicine treatment.
Okay.
Yes. We want to get more acquainted with what you've been doing since. What is the progress that is being made by the NCRI in this regard?
Actually, there is a lot of progress made.
Indeed.
To the level that very soon, probably by end of July, we should unveil the ultimate result regarding the performance of that product. As for safety, that was ascertained that it was really good within a time frame, 2 weeks. And when we got this second wave, we got authorization from the Mulago Ethical Research Committee to engage this treatment within a community setting. And we setting that one off, giving out this product to the affected, but under strict observation. They can come from home and receive it, say, from hospital under strict observation.
Indeed.
Yeah. So there is access already.
All right.
Yes.
There is access already?
Yes.
Who is accessing this medicine already?
The affected.
The
Those
affected.
who test positive.
So that is the trial phase that you're talking about?
It's still part of the trial phase. And all this has been approved. So every stage you have to get approval. Previously, the access would only be to patients admitted in Mulago Hospital. And this was during the time the pandemic was well controlled and the patients were very few. But then suddenly, as you know, recently, we got the second wave, and of course affected, the numbers have been increasing, and that caused concern of us trying to expedite and open up. So we sought approval, which has been granted, because all this has to be through National Council of Science and Technology, NDA, Research Ethical Committee. That approval was to extend the study to communities, implying that as you extend the study, people access, like open up. So access is there, but not from any other center.
I understand.
Yes.
Now, when it comes to the vaccinations, globally we've undertaken some 2,388,000,000 and some 36,000 vaccines have been administered on the whole global scale. And we do know that out of the 7.6 billion people who roam this earth, 9.32% have received at least 2 dosages. of either Moderna, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and 20.6% have received at least one dosage of either vaccines. But then here in Uganda, we do know that some 712,000 people plus have actually been vaccinated. But then we saw the resistance coming in from the first world countries when it comes to donating some of their vaccines to us, the African countries. And then you had so many analysts who were saying it is now more than ever that Africa should start talking about research when it comes to coming up with effective vaccines on our own without the help of these first world countries, which only thought about themselves and not the African countries during the onset of this pandemic. Do you also buy into this idea that we should put more energy and research into our own maybe chemotherapeutics in that regard to come up with herbal remedies?
Actually, I make a buy into, and I think COVID, if it brought anything good, it brought that ability for us to really know that we should have done this yesterday. Though I don't agree with the fact that we should do it alone. We need the developed countries because...
But we don't need the donations.
No donations, but we just need
the
support,
skills,
probably
technological know-how.
Yeah, so that we can also walk our journey. Yeah.
All right, but how important would that be? Being able to make our own vaccines? And how hard would it be? What would we need?
But there is already a group working on vaccines, yeah? So it's very possible because we have the human resource is there. I mean, it's a matter of just building good alliances because all this research has to be of international standards. And if you say international standards, definitely you have to link with the international world.
Indeed.
It's very possible. It's happening. The only thing we needed were to really bridge gaps regarding policy frameworks because some of them were lacking, given that for a long time most of such research on medicines would always be grown from outside, funded from outside. So by this time around you need to grow your home solution starting with the strategy itself. And we're doing it and it's happening. In the vaccine area it's happening, in the therapeutics it's happening. I'm heading it as you see me here, but of course guided by other higher authorities. We really have a super consortium of scientists that can do work.
The good news, dear viewers who are watching Morning at NTV, is that we have a herbal remedy or herbal treatment that is being worked on courtesy of government, the Natural Chemotherapeutics Research Institute, the that is the Natural Chemotherapeutics Research Institute. They are working on a herbal remedy and it will be out by July. Yes, that is the good news. So if you are grappling with COVID-19 and you thought, well, my country isn't having enough vaccines, AstraZeneca was largely expired and we do not have any more, what will I do? No, there's help that is coming in July. And even this Thursday, this week, we have a new batch of AstraZeneca vaccines that are coming into the country. So no need for alarm. Everything is under control. The only thing you have to do as a citizen is to adhere to the SOPs, wear your face mask and ensure that you are adhering to the standard operating procedures, even social distancing of at least 2 to 3 meters. Grace Nambatia, we do have different strains in this country of COVID-19, the Kappa variant from India, Nigerian strain, the South African strain, and so forth. Draw for us variations between the two, the strain that we had during the first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic and this one. How different are they?
Yeah, actually, I wouldn't say that I'm an expert in that area, but as somebody in research here, I take care to have information. Yes, of course. The first strain, I think, mostly was targeting the elderly, like some of us. But these new strains are targeting the youth,
including myself.
And the challenge is that if the elderly think they're okay, they may relax on same masks, and meanwhile the youth need to look at what the adults are doing. And there's a big danger in that because this time round you may not have flu or cough, but it doesn't mean you don't have it. You can propagate the virus, you know, and it can go straight to your lungs even without paying courtesy to the nose, so that people get to know you have something. So
you might not have a cold, but it's actually inside in your lungs.
Yes, and actually if it affects the lungs, as we know, that instead of having airways in the lungs, you start having liquids or water collecting there. So you really see the suffocation, lack of difficulty in breathing, which is really, really very challenging.
So they would need to be taken to the ICU, which are already filled up. You already have 920 people there.
And as we all know, that there is already a program for the community engagement program. We really see that the tested numbers, those in hospital, are fewer than the numbers we're getting. Like if Uganda is testing 1,000, if 1,000 test positive a day, you find lesser numbers in hospitals, it means the majority are in the communities. So that means the transmission, which is very efficient, because these viruses now are more efficient in transmitting. The numbers are really coming up sporadically. It now requires us informing communities to learn a lot on what to do when they're with the sick people in their community, especially monitoring oxygen levels. People need to know how do they do that, what gadgets do they buy to know that, because that is where the catch is. If breathing is difficult, then you know somebody can just die very, very fast. So it's very important for people to know that you should avoid as much as possible to reach that level going to hospital, because when you go there, this kind of like sort of like have a patient, you have to be near them, encourage them to eat. That doesn't happen in ICU. So once you are there, maybe it may be a no-return journey.
Indeed, a no-return journey. That's exactly what we've been hearing from analysts elsewhere within Africa, that your chances of survival in an African ICU are actually slim.
Yeah, because there is nobody to be near you, you know, like a patient.
Give you that ICU care,
it's
intensive
not
care.
There, and it cannot be there because of the lethality of the virus.
Of course, Dr. Grace Nambatia, she is the Director of Research at the Natural Chemotherapeutics Research Institute under the Health Ministry. This is largely what Dr. Grace Nambatia is saying. She's saying out of the 64,521 cases that we have, you only have people who are 920 being admitted in the hospital setting. So she means that the rest, where are they? These are your neighbors who are actually grappling with COVID-19. They are actually going under home-based care. So the transmissibility of this COVID-19 disease is actually higher. And the fact that these people are within our communities are spreading this disease, and it's seeing cases rise exponentially right here in Uganda. The good news is that 48,480 people have actually recovered. So the bigger majority are actually grappling within our communities, and we need to step up. So if you do not know that your neighbor is having a cough, yes, that shouldn't negate the fact that they have COVID-19. That's according to Dr. Grace Nambatia. I might not have a cough, but then when the pathogens reside within my body, they've replaced the airbags within my lungs with fluids. So I cannot breathe. Yes, I cannot breathe. When I breathe, I'm breathing the COVID-19 particles, and they're coming back out into the atmosphere, and unsuspecting citizens are breathing them in and catching the COVID-19 disease. That's why you're seeing so many cases rising. So the biggest pointer here is for continuation in adherence of the COVID-19 SOPs, wear a face mask and ensure social distancing in that regard. Dr. Grace Nambatia, let's talk about Ugandans who are turning to the usage of herbs to treat COVID-19. What do you have to say about that?
First of all, it's interesting to see that people are at last discovering that herbs can be very useful, and also recognizing that the medicines we normally talk about at the end of the day originate from the herbal or natural, because when you say herbs, people tend to think of only plants, but here some could be sourced from insects, like bees, wasps, you know, snake venoms, you know, minerals. So but it matters as for the quality you're using. Something could be good, but then if it's not handled well, then it can end up being dangerous. Herbs, people tend to think that all herbs are safe, but some can kill.
Some can kill?
Yes, there is one herb we're also investigating in Wandegea. It's called Wabogia ugandensis. Wabogia ugandensis, but in Luganda it's called the Mukuzanume. Swahili it's called abasi. As you hear abasi, it's like this is a tree that can almost treat so many things. Indeed. That tree is so useful. When you use the leaves, use very little. It's so effective on chest infections, even tuberculosis. But it's a prescription herb. You can't just use it unless somebody has guided you, because you could use a quantity that can burst your heart, and that's it. Yeah, it's on the list of our investigations, because given the indications that I've told you, it fits in the bill of like candidates to work on COVID. But it must be, the dosage should strictly be what it should be. You've heard of herbs. There is Stramonium, Datura, Stramonium. These are herbs having chemicals called alkaloids, which the Bushmen used to put on spears to spear, big animals.
So that they lose their consciousness.
That means what has been smeared is transmitted straight to the heart and arrests the heart muscle. These are some of the herbs people use to poison friends at drinking places in our communities. Amadudu, it's called amadudu. But much as they're poisons, a drug is a poison in a dose. These are powerful drugs. So these are some of the herbs. If somebody just played around with them, you are dead. The challenge is that we don't have statistics of people who have died from herbs. So it's very important to respect the herbs, to get information from those who know. We have people, we may call them by age, elderly, who you can trust somebody in the community, because dealing with medicinal herbs, it used to be a preserve of particular families. In a village, you would know this family is renowned for knowledge in this.
Aloe vera.
Yeah, so you don't, currently the challenge is picking them from the street, from anyone. Very young people who don't know, and even you buying, you don't know what you're buying, because herbs have also, I may call them standards we have to follow. For example, the characteristics, the identification, because if you say aloe vera, aloe vera has 400 species. So which one are you talking about?
Indeed.
And for example, if I may relate to people are in families, like in Uganda here, if I'm called Nakawoya, it means I'm of Ngeye clan. There is Nakasuja, there is Nabunya, whatever. So a plant may have varieties. I see these plants being talked of, like there is Vervain officinalis, the one with the purple flowers, which these people are really talking a lot about in Kampala. But that plant has a species. You need to know, is it the purple flower, is it maroonish, is it white flower? And this is where our institution comes in to give you information. You can come and consult. You get to know whether you're getting the right species that's being talked about. Next, you need to know of what maturity should the plant be, because it's not at every stage that there are medicinal components. So you need to know then from which environment was it got. Was it growing on a rubbish dump where they've dumped metals, old car parts? Because plants can suck up minerals, much as they may suck up useful minerals, say magnesium, calcium, but they can suck lead, which can arrest the heart. They can suck in these dangerous, minerals. So quality assurance is very, very important. Even if you didn't go to the laboratory, knowing if this plant is supposed to grow in a swamp, what is it in there because of where it was growing? In a sense that if I'm preparing the medicine, I would take care to remove the unwanted parts, So it's good people are coming up. It's encouraging, and it now impacts on us, the policymakers, to do the relevant policies to guide. Yes.
Of course, Dr. Grace Nambatia, 30 herbalists have tendered in their submissions for approval. What is the criterion being followed for one to be considered, or the herbal remedy to be considered?
Okay, criterion is your herb working on a chest condition, because we're talking about COVID and we don't have a very big bag of money to handle everything. We just stopped them at 30, otherwise by now there would have been so many, because we had to take in what we could handle. And in evaluation of whether they can work on COVID, of course you have to try out on the real virus called COVID, called corona. And we're not a lab gazetted to handle corona. So that means
as a herbalist,
for us, we handle the material, and then we collaborate with other labs that would now present the virus, whether a dummy virus, and collaborations with the Uganda Virus Research Institute, where initiated. But of course now for them also to prepare ground to test, they need reagents, they need all that was catered for, ordered, and the process is proceeding. That's why we say we hope in July, that is beginning of next financial year, they will be able to test the extracts we've sent to them. Because for us, we handle the extracts, prepare them in a condition required for testing. So yes, it may seem a slow process, but one has to remember that even if it's a pandemic, the science has to be followed. At the end of the day, you want to look at something that will be sustainable.
All right. Largely, 920 people are grappling with the COVID-19 disease in various health facilities within this country.
Yes.
And we are talking about 48,480 people who have recovered.
Yep.
But then the infections are kept at 64,521, majority of whom are actually in our communities.
Yep.
So what message are we sending to them? That they should stop using these herbal remedies or concoctions, or what exactly is the message from government right
The
now?
Ministry of Health has put in place a guideline to follow while you are in the community, handling the patient, and you the one handling what to do. And part of that guideline actually spells out some of those recommended herbal remedies. By the way, herbal remedies include things like garlic, onion. They've really spelled them out, and vitamin D3. Put at a dose of 50,000 international units. D3, though we also get it from the sun, that guideline, we're trying to circulate it as much as possible on WhatsApp. It really takes you through what to do, feeding, and on top of that, we encourage people to come out, reach out to us for guidance, questions on those herbs. We encourage them to use, but we want them to get information on the right way of using, because some of these herbs pass as food. Turmeric, that is a chinzali, it's very good at handling inflammation. Ginger is good, though it shouldn't be overused. Some people are using too much, because when you use too much, then you can really get ulcers. The body will always tell you if you're taking too much. Don't take that where you feel you really have to even squeeze your eyes to take it. The body should tell you what is comfortable for you. And remember, by virtue of the way we are created, different blood groups, whatever, it's not that you can take any herb. Yeah, so there are some bit of guidance is needed.
Meaning the herbs also, in a way, act like behave the same way like the vaccines, the efficacy, meaning AstraZeneca is not largely effective on the South African strain or the UK strain, meaning even these herbal remedies might work for Romeo Busiku and not Grace Number here.
Oh yeah, because we have different blood groups. So, you know, the experts in this area, like Indians or Chinese, they mind a lot about body makeup, to the level that if you have a dog face, a cat face, a lot is to be looked at. What would you need, the way you were created. So you don't have to force everything, like here people have to combine everything, steaming, whatever. Steaming is good, but it can also be good even without any herb, just steam alone. And then, so it's very important to listen to your body as you really use this. And when the body doesn't want it, you develop an allergy, you develop the body is telling you, I don't want it. So it's like a buffet. They've told you ginger, cinnamon, what, you know, as you go in cautiously and listen to your body. You can ring us for consultation. I have a whole team of 30 researchers who can give you free advice. And then you really moderate, but still the Ministry of Health has put another guideline guiding you on what to look out for if somebody is in isolation in your home. Don't just isolate them and forget about them. You need to know, do they have enough oxygen? When do we go to hospital? How do I go to that person, like in a room where they're isolated? And again, we tend to imagine that everybody has a room for isolation. Some don't have rooms, so you may have to isolate yourself by just ensuring that, yes, you are there in the home, but you wear a mask and even others there. So those two guidelines, because they are on WhatsApp, for me, I can volunteer giving my number for purposes of they are well laid out, they are well written. They caution about not to go for self-medication, you know, because really people are eager. So we're not just saying stop, but we're saying seek advice. Yeah.
Of course, they are not saying stop the use of the concoctions, but at least before you do so, seek some kind of advice. Let's also talk about the challenges that come about when we actually tout home-based care as a recommendation or avenue through which we could be able to curtail the many people who are coming to our health centers in droves and stretching our health facilities. According to the research NMG compounded during the onset of the COVID-19 disease, that is last year, we discovered that cases actually rose exponentially within the US because of touting the home care-based system, meaning as people were being told to go home and try to treat themselves from their houses, many of them were not actually observing SOPs, and many of them being COVID-19 patients, they would even leave their homes and go onto the streets, onto the markets to just go and do their shopping. So unsuspecting citizens during that fracas were actually getting the disease. I leave my home, I go to the market, I'm now feeling a little bit better, but then I'm shedding off the virus, So let's talk about the challenges of home-based care. Grace Nambatia, the fact that we could see an exponential rise in cases, largely because of home-based care, if people do not observe SOPs within their home setting.
True. And it's very difficult because now we're talking at a time when children were brought back from school, you know, and it's like on average almost each home has probably somebody affected. We learned that maybe in schools, some schools were not revealing, you know, the people affected. So the fact that you find that almost each home has a child that was returned from school, and the revelation that children really are infected, that first transmission is a reality. And so, but it's very difficult in a home for people to observe all that we're talking about. So we need to talk and talk and talk, and maybe say one thing, that if you really don't want to end up into ICU, try to observe.
Indeed, but Dr. Grace Nambatia, we're talking about people who live in the slum areas. We're talking about people who are living in Chibuli. We're talking about people who live in Chisenyi. We're talking about people who live around Makelele, Kavule, people who live around Katanga. You have a small single-roomed house that is having like 8 people living in the same room. Social distancing,
difficult.
It's a need.
Okay, those really can benefit a lot from steaming, using some of those...
Steaming?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, using simple materials around. I will start off from kakomera, you know, the Christmas tree kakomera, because that...
Within the house?
Yeah, within the house, and you can even boil it in the house, and the steam can also help to ward off those viruses we have. So
if the particles are within the atmosphere, the steam would kill them?
Yeah, actually there are some of those strong oils that may, let's say, ward them off, sort of flush them out. There is what we call kabani, a kabani. It's a resin, because this is
the ones we use for dispelling mosquitoes.
Either one used even in
you don't say.
In the Catholic Church.
It can work.
Have you ever thought of why it's used in the Catholic Church? Because a church has many people, and you know, the essence, it wards away infection. We call it Satan or something, but infection can also be called Satan.
I see. Very interesting.
In Katanga, or those congested areas, the resins are very cheap. They can go as a good piece can cost 500 shillings. You put it on a sigiri or something, and you know, that's the essence. First of all, it's pleasant. It can disinfect. It may kill, you never know, but let's say disinfect, so that you, at least you in some form of an environment where you mitigate the infection.
All right. We also do have individuals who have been vaccinated, and they say, since I was vaccinated, I should throw away this face mask. But then we've discovered that you can actually get reinfected. Expand more on that.
So you can, vaccination, being vaccinated doesn't mean that you cannot get infected. Only that the infection may not be as serious.
Before.
Yes, but we need to know that we still have to really protect ourselves and also protect, mitigate sort of transmitting to others. Yes.
Vaccine hesitancy. We do have a batch that is coming in, AstraZeneca jabs that are coming in on Thursday, but then we grappled with the first batch. There was some little bit of vaccine hesitancy. You saw that last minute rush to actually ensure that we use all the vials before they expire. Yes, what are some of the moves that you've expedited as the health ministry to ensure that this time round we do away with vaccine hesitancy and people embrace these vaccines?
I think there's been a lot of sensitization.
I see.
Even one-to-one. Personally, I've done a lot of sensitization. People ask me, can I go for it? The thing is, you leave it still open that it should be your personal decision, but you employ somebody to try and get as much information as possible, because you don't want somebody to say, I was forced. You show them that, yeah, there could be risks, yes, when you say medicinal, there are always risks, but if benefits outweigh risks, you go for it, because even if you can reduce death by 50%, it's better than getting the whole population, you know. So with that sensitization, people make a buy into. So at first, because it was a very new thing, there was hesitancy, but I see ministry has done all it takes to encourage, and this time around I believe people will rush in, because if I got my first vaccine, I should complete. Because by the time they say you need a second one, it means the effects of the other one are waning off, and then you need to reinforce. And being a new virus, nobody knows even how long for the protection will be. But you want to really push on and see while we're exploring other modalities, because COVID is not handled by only one intervention. It's a multi-pronged approach: vaccine, therapeutics, immunoboosting, exercising, and all the others.
Please, Dr. Grace Nambatia, help us demystify the lies coming in from Dr. Social Media X, who is saying these vaccines can largely stop you from having children. They're lying too much on social media.
That person should also give evidence in terms of research and statistics. People understand that language. But as long
this is my source of information.
Yes, that's why I'm not in a rush to let you know about our outcomes of the study, because the statistics should speak for themselves. Yes.
All right, that is Dr. Grace Nambatia. She's largely saying we do have a herbal remedy that is being worked on courtesy of the Natural Chemotherapeutics Research Institute under the Health Ministry, and it shall be coming out in July. They've been experimenting since January on some COVID-19 patients, and they've largely gotten back onto their feet. They are part of the 48,480 people who have recovered from the novel coronavirus disease. And she says, please do not stop using these herbal remedies, but first seek help from a medical expert. That is the point that is coming in. She can't stop you simply because you only have 920 active cases in our health centers, yet you have 64,521. 64,521 infections in Uganda, meaning largely many of these individuals who are having COVID-19 are your neighbors. They are living with you, but you do not know, largely because this strain is different. They are not coughing. The COVID-19 pathogens are largely inside the lungs, filled with water, not air. So when they cough, they are coughing or breathing out these COVID-19 pathogens, which you are in later on inhaling. So the transmissibility of this strain is actually higher because of the concoction of the cocktails of COVID-19 strains that we are dealing with right here in Uganda. On the international scene, 176,412,000 plus cases of COVID-19 have been registered. The US is taking the biggest chunk of those cases with over 33.6 million plus cases. India is the second most battered country with 29.6 million, and the third most battered country being Brazil with 15.7 million. France 5.7. You do have Turkey at 5.3 million plus cases. Russia 5.1, United Kingdom 4.5 million plus cases of COVID-19, and our neighbors South Africa 1.7 million plus cases of COVID-19. If you look at the number of people who have died, 3,815,000 people have actually succumbed. Do not write off the COVID-19 pandemic. Before you listen to the chapati guy, to the border guy who is saying no, COVID-19 is a hoax, ask them which one is your source of information. If it's not the Daily Monitor, they are lying. If they didn't type in www.nationmedia.com/UG, they are lying. They do not have information. The COVID-19 disease is real and it's killing people. 459 people have died here in Uganda. My name is Rome Busiku. Let's expound more on this conversation tomorrow to all the kings, queens, boys and girls who are celebrating their birthdays on this particular International Day of the African Child. Please, yes, do more to accelerate the implementation of Agenda 2040 so that we can realize an Africa that is fit for all children. Yes, have yourselves a blessed day. Don't forget